be rejected off a critical level. And obviously at the same exact time, we had that news hit about Oracle. We're going to have to get into that news, pull it apart a little bit and go from there. It's really important because if we lose the AI and that does become a bubble, we get overcapacity, it's going to be an issue. I think the most important thing to do is start with the basics. And if we go and take a look at the 4-hour chart, we knew that there was a wall up here. There's a ton of calls that are up in that area. And I use the bodies. You should use what you're comfortable with. But you cracked. Now, does that turn into a bullish harami and then just flip and go higher? It very well could. You have some support in here. And we all know that this area, this breakdown here Tuesday, and we've held that consistently. We've held that area. So do we hold there and bounce and retest up here? It's very well a possibility, but for now you cracked. So when you crack like this, you have to go on the assumption that this could be an issue. And then if we overlay something as simplistic as the RSI is lower now here than where it was here, which leads us to believe that this could have more downside pressure. And of course, we're not getting econ data. So all we really have is the momentum out there. And the other thing about the momentum, guys, just remember, you're in the blackout period right now. So if you're in the blackout period, there's no corporate buybacks. It's out here. We're out here alone by ourselves without the corporations buying their own stock back. And that's super important to remember. But the best way I can add value tonight is to keep the short, sweet, to the point in what I would look at. To start with the ES, I don't like the crack. I don't like the rolling as in the lower highs and the higher highs here. Not a fan. Also, leadership is starting to come from defensive sectors, not from cyclical sectors. And I'm not really crazy about that at all. So if I take a look at XLP here and we just look at this for a sec, what I'm going to do is just get rid of this, clean it all off. And you'll note that XLP kind of bonked today and lifted. Now look at XLY. XLY looks god awful. And we are seeing cracks. Remember, we did see that tricolor data. And if you haven't seen that and you haven't heard me talk about some of this stuff, I'll link Saturday's video, but at the end of this. But you have to realize that you are seeing some signs out there with the consumer. CarMax was very clear, hey, the consumer's having trouble. And this actually led to some selling in some of these names where Ally they were concerned about, and some of these other names came down in the past week. The consumer's having a little bit of an issue on the car side. Now, is it just the sub-lender of the car side? Or is it something else? Well, that remains to be seen. I mean, here's AEO. We had a great trade in this. You can see that green hitting that call wall. They can't get out of that fast enough. So there are some names out there that are some issues. Nike's telling you that, hey, the consumer's got real issues. And that's their excuse for what's going on. Now, are they saying that they have real issues, or are they blaming what's going on with Nike because Nike can't seem to just do it, right? You see how I tied that all in and used that? So what does this mean? It means that we just kind of have to pay attention, but here's what it means. Needs versus wants versus needs. So if you take XLP divided by XLY and you look at this, well, what is this telling you? Well, this has been telling you for the past month that you've been bottoming, that you are getting needs versus wants. That's not what you want to see for a strong market. And we've been in this range, needs versus wants, since about here. So since about the 22nd, needs versus wants are about even. Now the question is, are we going to see a situation here where needs start outweighing wants? And you'll be like, what does this matter? Defensive names versus consumer. It is the easiest way to look at defensive versus the consumer or the cyclical names. And if defense is winning and you're going long, you're going to have a bad day. Now, if you look at this versus looking at the RSI is already telling you to start looking at these sectors. So again, what does that mean? I think it might mean to start looking at some different names out there, guys. If we start looking at XLV, I think we might want to start looking at some of this stuff and seeing what's really going on. What's the haps, as the kids like to say. So you look at XLV and then everyone's going to be like, look at UNH. Yeah, that's great. And UNH did come back down. It did retest. It is lifting. I get it. You have CNC, and a lot of people think that this has settled itself, and we do have the current administration saying, don't worry, we fixed it all. Okay. So, the famous saying is, don't worry, I'm from the government, I'm here to help. How's that always go for us? Not very well. So I think we have to look at this and say, did this stuff get a little bit ahead of itself, like the Oscars of the world that reversed today? Is that something we really have to pile into? Probably not. How about TEM? That's been a fan favorite. I mean, you've got Doji City up there. Do I really need to be the first one that did try and, cross the Rubicon? Probably not. So that's going to leave us to some of these bigger names is what I'm thinking. So maybe looking at like the CIs of the world, or looking at HUM and seeing if they're the names that I really want to pay attention to. And that's come a long way already. So I'm not so sure that I have to be, cross the Rubicon, be the first to put my toe in the water, whatever analogy or saying you want to hear. I am wondering about the VNOs of the world. I am wondering about the SLGs of the world. Do we want to start looking at those names again? Do we want to start looking at the beaten down names? I'm not so sure that we do yet. I mean, the fact that Brandywine already rolled over again, and that is second tier, that is Texas and Philly, and they're rolling over. The fact that we're watching KRE and it can't get up off the ground, and now you've got this rising wedge. I think you're really better off, and I'm just going to be blunt about it, playing defense right now. And we've come pretty far, pretty fast. And you guys have been watching this channel for a while. I'm a trader, and I have my different my segments. Secularly, I think we're fine. Cyclical, I think we got issues, and I'll get into it. So you have a call wall up here at that 610. If you watch the pre-market video, they start at 815. Let me be clear. I say they start at 8:15. They usually start around 8:30. So you can watch something inferior until I can get on there. But I would watch them because we're very specific about what we think is going to happen. And it does help. People can drop their comments on that below. But, I do try to start around 8:15. But again, I am a trader and, I'm usually trading at that time. So sometimes it does get in the way, especially if news hits like AMD yesterday. Anyway, call wall up here. You can see where we hit it, tried again, hit it, tried again, and then we just backed off that sucker. And then we went sideways. And it is what it is. What about this news? What got us down? Well, we're going to get to that. I don't think we're there yet. But I do think there's some things here I do want to point out that I think would be very helpful. So in front of you is going to be the 3 and the 5 and the 8. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to put this in regular. So the green is the 3, yellow is the 5, red is the 8. And I'm not the brightest bulb, so green up top, okay, that's always good, and that means go. Red up top means stop, just like you would a stoplight. So if I want to go long a tech name and the red's up here pointing down, I usually will say to myself, well, why don't you just wait a couple minutes, give it a couple days, see what's going to happen. When we start to break them, that's when it starts getting iffy. Green becomes yellow. You get a little caution in here. Yep, it's not that you don't trade, but you get a little cautionary with what you're doing. Now you can see the 5-day right here and what's happening. Well, we are below the 5 and we were riding the lightning all day. Well, that's a little different than what happened Friday, October 3rd, where we hit the lightning and we were fine with it, right? Here we're riding the other side of it. Support is becoming resistance. Supports are becoming resistance. So that's definitely something I will take a look at. If I go here and take a look at like the 15 on the RSI, yep, you're already oversold. Great, you're due to bounce. You're not oversold here, and you've already taken it out on the hourly. So that means that I could be in for more pain. It all depends. It really depends on the market, depends on the Fed, depends on how long this drags on for. But I am getting this negative divergence that you tried twice up here. Now, you can try, you can work it off. Not every negative divergence, not every single one has to work off and go and cross that 30 line. Some of them will just come up and work down. And I want to be real clear about this. I'm talking about the possibility of a correction that might be somewhere between 3 to 5% of a pullback from the highs. I do not think that the sky is falling. Not yet. But we do have to go through some of this news that's out there. And I'm going to get more into it on Saturday because it's the canary in the coal mine that I do think becomes the issue. And we did see some of this. So I want to just throw this out there. I do like that Meta is holding this level. I don't like where they're going with their consumer product. I don't care if you like it. I don't. The idea of these glasses, it doesn't solve a problem. I don't need to be surveilling people while I'm talking to somebody in front of me. And they're like Vision Pro to me. I'm just going to tell you, like, you don't really want to be the guy that's walking around with these things, right? You're going to be living at home forever. Like, it's not a look. Some girl's going to go, oh, good, he's got the Meta goggles on during my date. Like, it's not going to win them over. Okay. Let's just call it what it is. So I don't think it really solves the problem. I really don't think it helps anything. And I think I think that they have a little bit of an issue on the consumer side of like, what is the AI thing that they're going to sell? Now, on the business side, I don't think there's an issue. But I'm wondering if this is why Meta came in. Now, we were looking at Meta and thinking about it from a different perspective, like, oh, they're going to come up with something. And they probably are. I mean, the guy's sickly brilliant, no matter what we think of him. But nevertheless, let's just keep going. So here's the thing about it. From my perspective, it always baffles me watching him try to drink water or talk about coffee. It's just bizarre. Here's where I'm going with all this. If you look at something like Meta and you look at something like a Google, you can see that Google is definitely holding in there better than a Meta. If we take a look at something like an Amazon, we can see that Amazon is holding in there better, right? there's something going on here. And what we're seeing is we're even seeing Microsoft hold in better. Now, just to give you an example of this, if we look at these names, we'll see them. There's your 12, your 22, and your 55. That's what I use. You should use what you're comfortable with. We take a look at Meta, and I'm hoping that we hold this, and I think you have a shot at it. But if you can't get up into this, well, this is just going to start weighing on you, and it's going to get actually uglier. And I'm wondering if we have an issue here on the consumer side. Now, Apple, the 17 selling, and what you're doing there is you're working off into this. And they are stopping their Vision Pro, and the rumor is that they're going to get into the glasses. I think that that's going to be one of those things that takes forever, like they were going to start selling a car. That's my personal opinion of it. But I think the business side, you're fine on. But I think on the consumer side, what you're seeing is the embedding of Claude AI by IBM and that kind of thing. I think that's where it's going on the consumer side as well as the business side. They're going to embed the Claude, the ChatGPT into different models. And I wouldn't be surprised to see Apple doing something like that as well. But so where does this tie in and where are we going with this? And I think that this is super important. After the OpenAI meeting, and there's no OpenAI, but I'm going to throw it up there for you, I thought that Adobe was going to get smoked. And I'll tell you why, because everyone keeps talking about how great Sora is. Adobe did not get smoked. I thought Fig would get smoked. It didn't. I thought everyone would be out there running out the door to be buying more of these memory names and storage names. They weren't. The exact opposite happened. Why do you think that was? Because the people that get to go to these conferences, they are the ones that get the knowledge. And that's why these stocks acted the way that they did. Because when he was speaking or what happened yesterday, they were looking at this and going, man, this is so far out by the time we're going to get there. I understand that he wants all these 900K DRAM and he wants all this stuff. But I actually think what happened at this meeting is that they looked at this and said, he's so far away from where he needs to be. And it doesn't mean that he's not going to be faster than he thinks he is, but I think with what he's saying, he's nowhere near where he expects to be. And you're seeing this with the names like SanDisk, and you look at Micron. These names, did they fall apart? No, they're not falling apart. But are you starting to see cracks? Yeah, you are starting to see cracks. These were our leaders, and these leaders have gone from 263 on the high in October 3rd to 220. Now you might be like, oh, well, you were here and now I get that. But when you're up on here and you're looking at this and going, I'm down 15% from the highs in 3 trading days. It's a lot. It's a correction. So if we don't have those leaders, and we don't have leaders right now, in other words, our leading sectors were that whole memory sector, we don't have that right now. So when we start going through something else like XLC, you also notice that we're rolling over here and the 1222 is about to cross to the downside. So I don't have leaders, and that's very important for us to get. If we don't have leadership, then we tend to roll over. Now, the other thing that you can always do is just look at the SPY and divide the SPY divided by the Qs. Let me do it this way. And that'll give us third time's the charm. I'm not going to have time to edit this, guys. You're just going to have to rock with me. And what we're starting to see is we're starting to get to that point where we're holding the line. And that's not really where we want to be. So let's clean this up and we'll get rid of this. And let's turn this into a bear chart. And what do I mean by that? Well, historically, what starts to happen here, and that's the daily, so we'll drop that to the hourly. Historically, what will happen is you'll get this trend, and everybody loves this trend because it just means that we're killing it. And you can see what happened here in September, and that's when it starts getting a little wonky, and then SPY will outperform, right? What you're starting to see in here is these undercuts, and then out of these undercuts, you can always take the RSI and throw that in as well. And what do you see? Well, you see a divergence developing right in here, right? Now, if I do this on the 4-hour, you can see the divergence even stronger. So what this is telling me is that the SPY is getting ready to outperform the Qs. And there's only one reason that ever happens is when things get defensive or when we get choppy. And we could go through a period of choppiness as they try to digest what's going on. So what was the haps today? What was the big news? Well, the rumor, and I'll be real clear about this, it's not confirmed at all, but the rumor is that Oracle has excess capacity on the data side. If that's true, then yeah, we're going to have some issues here, and this stuff's going to have some margin compression, and it's definitely going to have some PE compression. There's no doubt about it, because we're now at a level that is priced for expansion, not contraction. And if we are priced with the bias of expansion, and we're going to go into the reality of compression with data centers, even if it's for like 3 to 6 months, these things are going to get hit, and they're going to get hit hard. So don't delude yourself on this. This can come in really, really hard. I mean, we've watched these names, to be really clear. IREN is a name that I've been in since back here in the 25, 26. And these kinds of names I look at them and go, okay, in a month, I'm up 150% on equity. Now, forget the option trades, but just on the equity side. And it's all predicated upon AI demand for data centers. If there's any cracks in that, this thing's going to have a 3 handle, right? So, and to think it's not is called delusion. And a lot of these names, you have to remember where they were. This was a $7 stock in August after earnings. If there's anything there where they're going to slow down this inception of using these kinds of companies, like if you're not using Oracle because of their and it's the Blackwell that they're talking about, then you're not going to subsidize through Wolf. You have to think about it that way, right? I think this is super important to get because is this the canary in the coal mine? Well, the first one to me was really the side of looking at Meta and the fact of where's this consumer product with all the billions that you're spending? You don't have one. I don't want to wear your stupid thing on my wrist and I don't want your stupid goggles. So, okay, well, what are you doing? Well, it's helping us get ads. Okay, so we have to spend hundreds of billions of dollars so that you have a better model to make ads. So hopefully you can see where I'm going with this. That money eventually is going to have an ROI. It's had one. Is it going to have incremental ROI over time or not? On the consumer side, forget the business side. That's already been decided, right? There's no question about it. If you look at Amazon, just so you understand this, Amazon's embedding Anthropic into their business. Anthropic started the year in January with $1 billion in revenues. December, that's their annual run rate. Anthropic's run rate by December is $9 billion. To say that AI is like a scam is it's delusion, right? These numbers are insane, the growth that ChatGPT and Amazon's going to go through. That doesn't mean that you don't hit constraints and you don't hit capacity at some point and that you don't have a glut, right? They all talk about it. Oh, we want to build and build and build because we want to be first. That usually does lead to a glut at some point, and then you have to work that glut off, right? That's what I'm talking about. So on the business side, I don't think there's an issue. Now, with Oracle, only time's going to tell. What I noticed about the trade today, and I thought this was really poignant, was it only lasted 10 minutes. It was not consistent. If it was really the concern, this would have been hours down of people puking. And it wasn't. It was the headline. And then after we actually were fortunate enough to short it and did exceptionally well with the trade and then just get out of the way and then just allow it to do whatever it's going to do. And I think that that's where I'm going with this. We need more data, and you're going to get that into the earnings. But if some of these companies start missing, there's going to be some issues out there. And right now, you don't have leadership. You just don't. And we need that leadership. That's what I want you to just kind of wrap your noodle around as you go through the week. Keep an open mind when these analysts are talking. If they have data, like real data points, not their special feelings, not how they feel about their day, but actual hard data that we can utilize. Super important. And I do want to go through Tesla because I thought that this was just ridiculous. But he went out there and alluded to the fact that there was going to be some special today. And there was not. And then I just watched this 450. I was very clear for those in the public pre-market, and not even just the private one I do in the community, but the public pre-market. I was really clear with you guys, like 450 is the wall, and you can see what happened. Test, retest, and for you guys that love these RSI moves, bonk, bonk, you can see the negative divergence, and you can see the collapse. It was like perfect spot to short it. We actually shorted this, did exceptionally well with it. Bought puts. Puts are a little expensive. We did well. We went out, did the 430s, and the reason for that was I wanted the delta expansion because the IV was so high. But I would watch this tomorrow. I think a lot of people are going to be super annoyed. 430 is a really big wall for it, but I think a lot of people are really annoyed that there was not some kind of event after they alluded to an event is the best way to say it. The next event really is October 22nd. That is it.